Raiders Zone Weekly with Vince Calautti, Ryan Smith, Steve Kandray, and Billy Hassinger. I apologize for that.
Ryan just wanted to be on the show in some way, shape, or form.
Wait,
so he
what's
had it
that?
set up for you so that way you could hit it.
As Ryan will not be joining us here tonight, he has a band concert that he has to go to. Hope he has a good show. But it is Vince, Steve, and I, Billy Hassinger, here tonight on Raiders Zone Weekly, as this is a very special show. It's Vince and I's last Raiders Zone Weekly of our life, unless we call in next year if Steve and Ryan let us.
Absolutely not. No,
They'll let me call in. They may not let you call in.
As this is our special NFL mock draft show, as I believe Jesse is calling us, as he's going to join us. So, guys, why don't you go ahead and start taking us through your first few picks.
All right, I'm going to start. I'll give us a start off. We'll go through the top 5 real quick here, as they're pretty easy to do. We'll start with the Colts. Already made the announcement of who they're going to draft. Andrew Luck. That's a no-brainer right there. The top player in this entire draft. Would have been the top player last year had he gone out. Redskins, RG3, Robert Griffin III, another quarterback right there. Again, another no-brainer for them. We knew they were going to come in there and draft him.
As I believe we have Jesse on the line. Jesse, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Glad to be here. Glad I could make it. Still battling traffic, so I am without my own cheat sheets. But, I think myself as a generally smart guy, so I may be able to wing it till I can get home.
And that's why I wanted you on this show, Jesse. You are a smart man.
Putting his life on the line for the show.
As Vince has already told us that everyone knows that Indianapolis has announced today that they will be taking Andrew Luck with the #1 overall pick. Washington, more or less, going to take Robert Griffin III.
It'll be a shock if they don't.
As for the fact that they gave up 3 first-round picks for that pick. So
they gave up the franchise.
Everybody will be fired if this does not go down.
So I'm pretty sure we're all in agreement at who's going #1 and 2. Number 3, that's another pretty easy one, but why don't we just talk about real quick?
Actually, I have a little different for number 3. I have a trade happening. I have the Dolphins trading to move up to get Ryan Tannehill. I think they panic because they're afraid the Browns take him, and they draft Ryan Tannehill. So we have 3 quarterbacks in my mock draft going in for the first 3 picks.
Hey, Steve, who do you got the Vikings taking?
I have Matt Khalil, offensive tackle. I mean, it's always a good choice to pick an offensive tackle in the first round. It doesn't bode well for the Browns, though. I mean, you guys are going to be disappointed with what I say about them, but yeah, I'll say that the Vikings are going to be smart and pick an offensive tackle because you get the most value out of picking linemen in the first round of a draft. That's what all teams should always pick, unless you're the Steelers, and I'll get to that later.
Jesse, who do you got your beloved Vikings taking?
Well, it's been kind of a strange offseason for Minnesota. I think that Matt Khalil is easily the best pick for what the team needs, and as far as overall talent in the draft goes. I mean, obviously the potential of the first 2 picks before him are so great, but for an offensive lineman, he's going to be great. I think the Vikings take that unless the Dolphins just offer something completely absurd for the number 3 pick. I think the Vikings' hands are tied. They have to take Khalil unless they can find something really appealing to trade down for.
And it was said today that they are still considering taking Khalil, Morris Claiborne from LSU, or Justin Blackmon from Oklahoma State. But I agree. I think they need to take Matt Khalil. They need to protect Christian Ponder. He was running for his life last season. They drafted him at number 12 overall last year, and they just need to keep him upright.
Yeah, I would have put him there, but I have a strong feeling the Dolphins, in a panic trade, they need that quarterback, and they're afraid Cleveland's been hinting that they may take him, so they worry, they jump up and take that and take Tannehill, who has only 19 career starts.
They're not a competent enough organization to make that trade. I don't think the Dolphins should worry at all. I mean, there's no way the Browns are going to think that far ahead. The disappointing thing too is I'm usually the guy who's like, well, first of all, I just want to say I haven't been on the show for a month. But I think maybe last time I was on the show, we did our draft picks, and I was like, oh, no, these are
NCAA picks?
NCAA, I'm sorry, not draft picks. NCAA picks, and everybody's like, oh, Steve, terrible. Oh, tied for first place. Just saying.
You lost.
You got second.
Okay, I got second place. That's basically tied for first place, okay? It's close enough. All I know is I beat you, and I beat you, and I beat Jesse.
But you see, here's the thing, though. We were not making fun of you at the picks you made. We were making fun of you because you couldn't believe the picks that you
were like, wait, I picked that guy?
I'm just saying that I have a sixth sense for things that I shouldn't have doubted myself, and neither should you. But what I really wanted to say is that I'm disappointed that the first 2 picks in this draft are so set in stone because I really wanted to go against the grain and make some weird prediction, but it's impossible. It's boring.
With the second pick, the Redskins select George Jenkins.
Yeah.
If we really want to discuss these picking strategies, we go all the way back to the NCAA Division III football picks that we all trotted out.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, that was a fluke.
That was disastrous, but But nonetheless, it's time for pick number 4. Who do our beloved Browns take? Well, at least Vince and I's.
I have the Browns actually taking Matt Khalil. I think it's too big of an opportunity for pass up, as you mentioned earlier, solidifying that line. You put him at right tackle. You got Joe Thomas. and Alex Mack and Khalil on that line. The two guards, they can improve them, and I think that really solidifies that line for years to come.
They're not going to do it. That would be the most sensible pick, and I think they would definitely get the most value. But I know the way the Browns organization is, being a Steelers fan, I realize they're not always making the picks they should make, and they're going to go with the sexy pick. They're going to pick the standout running back. They're going to pick Trent Richardson.
Which isn't a bad choice at all, though.
It is a terrible choice. They're going to pick Trent Richardson. He's going to be okay for a couple of years, and he's going to do, he's not going to have nearly the season he's supposed to. He's going to be okay because they don't have that solid of an offensive line. It's going to be the same way as what happened with Peyton Hillis. He'll maybe have a good standout season, but the longevity is not going to be there.
You're saying that Peyton Hillis, you're saying that Trent Richardson is going to go back to Arkansas, get married,
you mean
have
Alabama?
Have strep throat. No, he's going to go to Arkansas if we're following Peyton Hillis.
You guys are so
here.
full of excuses. Oh, he had strep throat. Oh, he had this.
I'm just saying this is what happened last year. Are you saying this is what Trent Richardson is going to do? He's going to get strep throat. He's
Here's the problem that the Browns have. Their hands are tied right now by a fan base that is so sick of waiting and being told to wait that they're demanding something big happen. The Browns want to be the Patriots. They want to trade down. They want to get value. They want to rebuild. Now the fans are so sick of waiting that they're demanding something happen. That's why you will end up with a pick like Trent Richardson. He may not give you the most value immediately. Not saying that it'd be a bad pick overall, but the Browns just need to take someone in order to satiate this fan base at this point, and I'm just not sure how sustainable that is for the future of the Browns.
I agree. I do think that they take Richardson here, although I would like to see them take Justin Blackmon. But at this point, you gotta go with the standout running back. He's one of the best players in the draft. He's a monster. He's going to come to Cleveland. Number 5, Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
I have them taking Richardson. They said if Richardson falls soon, they are going to take him, which will help with all the fumbling that LeGarrette Blount had, since he won't have the ball as much, as Richardson will become the primary back in that system. Very durable running back, good hands, strong runner.
I've got the Buccaneers picking up Morris Claiborne, the offensive lineman. I think he's going to be a good fit for them, and I think that
offensive lineman.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say
that. Cornerback.
Maybe.
Yeah, he's cornerback.
Well, for some reason on my sheet, I said he was an offensive lineman. That was a very typical Steve move. And you know what? It's fitting for the last show with this crew that I make such a gaffe. So, but I will stand by my choice. Morris Claiborne, the offensive lineman. Maybe he exists in some alternate universe, or maybe he's in NFL Europe. But that's who they'll pick.
Oh, lordy. Jesse, who do you have him taken?
I think Morris Claiborne is the biggest. He's the biggest value here. Unless the Vikings flop around and they end up going with Morris Claiborne, which, as a Vikings fan, I wouldn't be that upset about. Our quarterbacks have been consistently awful for quite some time now.
Yes.
I think that Claiborne offers you the most depth, the most value for that pick, and the Bucs, of course, want a big-time defensive player. That's not something that they've ever shied away from.
I think that the Buccaneers take Claiborne as well. They've had those problems with Aqib Talib, with former first-round pick out of Kansas. He's been having some issues with the law. Can't stay out of trouble. So I think that they go with Claiborne, put him opposite Rondé Barber, who's surprisingly still in the league after all these years.
He's got to be like 55 or something right now, just playing.
Close, maybe 50.
Just hanging in, man.
Yeah.
But, he still makes an impact when he's out there on the field. So Rondé Barber, sticking around, pair him and Morris Claiborne together. That's a pretty good set
tandem.
Duel of cornerbacks. Safeties are another issue for the Buccaneers. But nonetheless, you throw those two in there together, be pretty tough to get to the outside. Number 7, the Jacksonville Jaguars.
We skipped the Rams at number 6. And
that I did.
The Rams right now are celebrating because they get the guy that they wanted. Justin Blackmon falls in number 6 to them in my draft after the big trade, and I see them. I see Blackmon going to the Rams. Good wide receiver for Sam Bradford to throw to.
I agree with this. I think they need a wide receiver. I think Justin Blackmon is clearly the hottest wide receiver in the draft, and I think it's a pretty sensible choice for the Rams. I agree with Vince.
Jesse?
Again, Blackmon is the biggest. He's the biggest value. He's the biggest star player. It just depends on what the Rams' overall philosophy is as a team that's drafting. The player that actually offers the most benefit for them, I think, is Fletcher Cox. He is a great defensive tackle. They need something on defense after years of having, some offensive drafts. I don't think the Rams are really hurting for offensive players at this point. But again, it just depends on whether they have the school philosophy that, here's a guy we need, but if the best player available is so much better than he is, we have to take him.
The problem is I just can't think of any wide receiver that's on that roster that is good.
Again, they have they have the ability to get the ball down the field. The problem is with the line and some other things in St. Louis. Again, the defense in St. Louis is not what they're known for.
Yeah, I'd be
so
interested.
Again, it's a value argument, but again, Blackman's not a back pick. I would not be disappointed in the Rams for taking him. It just depends on what their drafting philosophy is.
I'd be interested to see if they ended up if Khalil dropped that far. If they had a pick between those two, that would be an interesting choice to make.
Well, that'd be a hard choice to make.
Yeah.
Steve, did you make your pick for the Rams?
Yeah. Yes, he agreed.
Okay.
Blackman.
Okay, I just kind of missed it.
You're the one who skipped the Rams.
Yeah.
Hey, I admit I missed it. It was my fault. I think they take Blackman too. I hope he's gone by this point. Like I said, I hope he comes to the Browns. But nonetheless, because I've been saying since before last football season, I want Blackman after he declares for the draft this year. Vince can attest to that pretty easily.
Billy was going to ask him to prom, but it didn't work out.
I would, in fact, I would probably, although I think the Browns are going to take Richardson, I definitely think Blackman would be a much more sensible pick.
Mm-hmm. I believe that too. But moving on, number 7. Now we get to take the Jacksonville Jaguars pick.
I've got them taking Melvin Ingram, actually. This is a pick that both McShay and Kuiper are looking at. Jacksonville needs defensive help. And other than Claiborne, he's the best pick to immediately help out. And I'm going to go with Melvin Ingram for the Jacksonville Jaguars. It's a safe pick for them.
Again, I'm going to agree with Vince on this one. Melvin Ingram, a defensive end, and just my overall drafting philosophy. I don't think you could really go wrong if you pick a solid D end in the first round, or if you pick an offensive lineman. So I think that D ends are always in high demand. So I think you can't really, and your fans can't get upset with that either. So that's I think they'll do it.
I mean, you look at it, Melvin Ingram, he's a beast. At one point, he had the ball rated 60 yards for a touchdown on a fake punt. I mean, how the defense could not take him down? That's just embarrassing. Jesse, who do you got the Jags taking?
Well, since I had in the last round, since I had Fletcher Cox ended up going to the Rams, this is the moment in the draft where it happens almost every year where a great player, just for kind of the circumstances of what teams need and who they're taking, falls a little bit, and the team ends up with them right in their lap and saying, "Oh, well, this is nice." And a pretty little bow is wrapped around Justin Blackman as he's handed to the Jacksonville Jaguars.
All right,
that'd be nice.
Moving on.
Anything to help out Cecil?
Yeah. Moving on.
I miss Jesse's imagery on the show.
Moving on to the 8th pick of the draft.
So eloquent.
With the Miami Dolphins originally, but Vince has changed it up and spiced it up a little bit.
I've got the Vikings at number 8. I have your Vikings, Jesse, taking Claiborne, the best defensive player in the draft. And I know there were issues about him with his Wonderlic test, but they've said the lower the score for the cornerback, the better the cornerback plays. So you're going to get a pretty good cornerback there, Jesse.
It's my favorite stat of all time.
Yes.
That the only statistically significant correlation between Wonderlic score and performance is the lower the score, the better your cornerback is.
For defense. Makes no sense.
Right. Tells you everything you need to know about the Wonderlic test.
Yeah, and Claiborne's he's good. He's fantastic. He'll instantly provide a boost to that defense, and that in turn will help the offense because a good defense gets the other offense off quickly and allows the offense to get back on and make plays.
Oh, okay, so we're on 8 now? Still?
Yes. Yep,
but Vince
still
did
8.
some weird hypothetical scenario, so it's the Dolphins, right?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
It's not a hypothetical. This is what I believe is happening.
I was listening to Jesse's anecdote about the Wonderlic, and I got distracted. I have the Dolphins picking Ryan Tannehill, a very underrated quarterback in this draft. Obviously, he's so much overshadowed by Luck and by Griffin. Obviously, the Dolphins need a quarterback, so Tannehill seems to make the most sense for them.
Jesse, who do you have Do you still have the Dolphins at number 8? I'm so lost with
I'm the only one who's got the Vikings. I'm the only one who's got the Vikings at 8.
Dolphins are still at 8 with me, and again, this is it's one of those things that the trade can happen. The Dolphins are like, oh, we need to trade. We might need to jump up and get Tannehill because the Browns might take him. I think that's just a lot of gamesmanship that's been going on. Dolphins stay at number 8. I think they're able to get Tannehill without even having to move around.
I agree. I think Tannehill just drops right to him there at number 8. I still think he's a little bit overvalued up in the top 10. He's more of a mid-first round to early 20s pick to me, in my eyes at least. He's a good quarterback, don't get me wrong, but I just don't think he's a top 10 caliber.
The only advantage that he has going to Miami is the fact that the offensive coordinator was his head coach at Texas A&M. He knows the system, and the head coach, Joe Philbin, is very good at developing quarterbacks. He'll have at least a year to – he should be in the keyword, have a year to sit behind either David Garrard or Matt Moore. Matt Moore performed pretty well in the end of that year there. So hopefully things work out. Tannehill can be good later on.
We'll just have to wait and see what happens with that. But moving on, number 9 pick in the draft, the Carolina Panthers.
Yes, I still have them at 9.
Coming off of a pretty good season as you comparison to the year before. Who do the Panthers take?
I've got them taking Dontari Poe, the defensive tackle. There's a lot of Fletcher Cox, as Jesse already mentioned, being taken. I have Poe because Poe is one of the fastest risers in that draft. He's one of the strongest. He's a big defensive tackle. He doesn't need to move around. D tackle, big guy. Carolina needs that presence in the middle. He'll be good, and he'll be able to play right there.
I actually traded up. The Lions are going to trade up to get. No, I'm just kidding. That was my.
What?
And the Lions are trading, and then there is the 16th pick. So I have the Panthers picking Michael Floyd from Notre Dame, the wide receiver. I think that they want Cam Newton to have another pretty good target. I think they want to build up that receiving core a little bit. So I would not be surprised, though, by your pick. But, I mean, just wanted to be a little different on this one. So Michael Floyd it is.
Jesse?
Stealing my thunder, Michael Floyd with the Carolina Panthers. I think that, again, the Panthers are one of those teams that, they look like they're getting better. They're really still not a great team, but they've got the guy that will put the butts in the seats and that will sell the jerseys. And what better way to continue that trend is to draft a guy that he's going to be throwing through. That is Michael Floyd.
Yeah.
Again, it won't make the Panthers a much better team, I don't think, but it's the pick that will make them the most money.
I got the Panthers taking Fletcher Cox here, big defensive tackle at Mississippi State. Jesse has him off the board a couple picks earlier, but I think that this is where Cox comes off the board at. So another SEC top-ranked player and going in the top 10. Moving on, number 10.
It's definitely, I mean, especially this year, it's hard to not pick
Yeah.
if you have a chance to get a defensive player for the SEC. I mean,
Yeah.
that's tough.
The
to
draft
pass
this
up.
year is little with the wide receivers, defensive ends, and defensive tackles.
It is.
and quarterbacks.
In recent years, offensive line and defensive line have been just
go-to.
like tearing up the first round.
Yeah.
Moving on, Buffalo Bills,
So,
number 10.
Bills have been linked to this one guy for the last 5 mock drafts. Riley Rafe of Iowa, offensive tackle. They need someone to protect Fitzpatrick. He's a great guy for that. He's been in the Big Ten. He knows how to get that running game going, and that was a huge part of their offense last year. So good guy to protect Fitzpatrick and get that running game rolling. Rafe goes to Buffalo.
I have no comment on my next 4 picks. They're just the Bills through the Cardinals. I just don't really care about them very much. But I actually the same thing. Riley Riff. I just don't care about those teams that much. So I don't have a whole lot of insight. So I just thought I'd make
You
that clear.
should care about the Bills because no one circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills.
That's true. No one circles the wagons like them. But
For the
I
first
agree.
6 weeks of the
I do have Riley down on my sheet. So I'll just whatever you said about him, you can
Riley.
apply that to my choice.
Yeah.
Jesse,
Great offensive tackle. He's going to give you great protection. I mean, he's going to grow into a good player. There's not much else to say. The Bills need it. They don't need the flashy player. They get instead just pick up a great offensive lineman and move along. Again, this is a team that's coming along. Unfortunately, the problem is that they're in a division filled that is just stacked.
Yeah, I have him taking Reef as well from Iowa, and you guys pretty much covered it, so I'm not even going to
Yeah.
say anything else. Number 11, the Kansas City Chiefs.
All right, now I'm going to butcher this name terribly, so be prepared. For the Chiefs, we'll pick Luke
Kuechly.
Thank you. I was going to say Cuccelli. That's not right. Luke Kuechly. That's obviously the best. They're saying the best inside linebacker falls perfectly to the Chiefs. The Chiefs are celebrating with this guy. He will plug that inside linebacker and make a great combination with their other ones, and again solidify a defense who's got their head coach who's a defensive-minded coach and is really going to improve that defense again this year.
So based on my comment before, I just sort of picked David DeCastro, who's a guard, because
Solid.
I figure I couldn't get 2 shot down for picking an offensive or defensive lineman. So I figured it was a safe pick.
That's a terrible choice, Steve.
Of course, Billy will find a way.
You got that right. Jesse, who do you have?
Chiefs like themselves some defense. They're losing their big defensive tackle, Poe, at the end of the year. Of this year, I think they select his replacement, and that being Kelly Gregg. Kelly Gregg is contemplating his retirement. I think they select his replacement in Poe.
I was going to say, I didn't know Poe got drafted already, and Kelly Gregg's in the draft.
Excuse me, Gregg is he's contemplating his retirement after this year, so I think they're going to draft his replacement. Again, a good value pick.
Yeah.
It is. I agree with Vince on this pick. I think that they take Luke Kuechly, and I know I showed you this, Jesse. Remember that day we were sitting in the office, and I was like, this kid from Boston College is ridiculous.
Yes.
He had 450 tackles, close to 500 in 3 years at Boston College.
Yeah.
He was all over the field.
Good player.
His last season, he had 190-some tackles. So he's all over the field, can go sideline to sideline. You match him with Derek Johnson, that's a pretty good linebacking core right there.
He did play at Boston College, though. I mean,
Yes, so did Matt Ryan. He's a pretty good player.
Yeah. Next pick in the draft at number 12, the Seattle Seahawks, who it seems like no one cares about, and Jesse absolutely hates their new uniforms.
No one cares about the Seattle Seahawks.
Okay, let me tell you. All right, before we get off on this, let me tell you about the Seattle Seahawks needs. The white ones are not awful. They're not great. They're not awful. But the two things that you can take away from this, they're actually good. One, that little herringbone pattern type thing they got going on the collars and the pant stripe, that's the one original thing in this that I like. Other than that, it's an abomination. The neon green, the checkerboard, whatever thing they got going on in the numbers, it's all bad.
Yeah.
All bad.
They are terrible.
It's basically Nike stroking its own ego to saying, hey, look, you're in the Pacific Northwest. Let's make you look like Oregon. It's bad.
I feel like you burst out into tears of sadness when you looked at the Pittsburgh Steelers 1934 throwback jerseys.
Okay. No, all right, let me tell you about those.
Yeah, look
those are the most amazing things I've ever seen.
Really?
What?
Not because no. They're throwbacks. They're not meant to look like, crisp and nice.
True.
They are meant to be representative of what they were, and that is exactly what they are.
Gaudy and disgusting.
I loved the Broncos throwbacks because they were so hideous. It reminds you just how bad uniforms used to be.
Okay.
So I'm okay with it. I'm down with it.
Okay, let's get back on track.
So as
here.
long as the jersey pays the proper historical homage, then it's okay no matter how ugly it is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, pretty much. Jesse and I have had many conversations about this, but let's get back to topics. We've only got till 9 o'clock here. So Seattle Seahawks.
Seahawks. Quentin Couples, defensive end, North Carolina, a little bit raw, but they need that defense. They need somebody to come up and make a big play. But they could look at wide receiver, but I still say they pick defense. Quentin Couples the choice.
Yep, Quentin Couples, defensive end. Literally, who cares about Seattle? Really?
Jesse.
Strictly bringing in some defense, defensive perspective to a team that's pretty much been known just for their offensive outbursts the last couple years.
And I had them taking Quentin Couples as well. So three of the four of us are in agreement on there. They take the defensive out of North Carolina. Arizona Cardinals, another NFC West team. Who do they take?
I've got them taking Michael Floyd. They could take an offensive lineman to help out Kevin Kolb, who seems to be injured every other play. But Michael Floyd, a great number 2 complement to Fitzgerald. Get him open. Good hands and a big guy. Even though he had some issues at Notre Dame, I think he still gets drafted fairly high. Michael Floyd's the choice.
Well, I actually guess I do have a comment on this one. Speaking of Kevin Kolb getting hurt every other play, I think they're going to trick Jonathan Martin, offensive tackle, give a little bit better protection in there.
Mm-hmm. Jesse?
I think the Cards are going to go with David DeCastro. This kid is being projected off the wall. Like, he could be one of the better guards to come through the NFL in quite some time. The name everyone keeps tossing around is Hutchinson. We'll see if I don't know if he can be that great, but, you got to do something right to get that kind of praise. I think he's a perfect fit for the Cardinals.
I have lost on my sheet for a second. I have the Cardinals taking Dante Hightower, the inside linebacker from Alabama.
Interesting.
A little bit higher than what he's projected to go, more or less.
Feels like it's half as higher than what he's supposed to go.
Yeah, but I think
that's all right.
They need an inside linebacker, and after Coakley's off the board, he's the best one available at this point. So
true.
I basically did mine off of what teams need.
Yeah.
So I looked at their top 6 needs. So that's why this draft is probably messed up big time compared to what next week is going to shape out as. Moving on, number 14, Dallas Cowboys.
Cowboys, again, sweat out bullets, but get the guy that they've wanted, Mark Barron, the safety from Alabama, best safety in the draft by far, fills their biggest need. Help out that defense, and going to be a defensive-heavy draft for Dallas this year. Start off with a young safety who could be great for years to come.
Besides picking offensive and defensive linemen in general, I'm also a big fan of picking defensive backs, especially watching the Steelers, who tend to struggle with actually getting decent ones. But I actually agree. I have Mark Barron too. Obviously, one of the best strong. It's hard to not pick. If you have a good defensive player from either Alabama or LSU and you get the chance, it is hard to pass him up. So I'm definitely saying that Mark Barron it is.
Mr. Meade?
Mark Barron, easy pick. Everyone's pretty much already laid it all out.
Yep, I'm in agreement too. Mark Barron. So Dallas, done. Scratch them. Moving on.
Scratch them to lose.
NFC East rival with Philadelphia Eagles at number 15. Who do they take?
They need another defensive lineman, need a big defensive tackle to tie up that middle to let D'Amico Ryans come in and make some plays. I see them taking Fletcher Cox, the very versatile D tackle, and he can play any position. I see him getting drafted by the Eagles.
Actually, one of my fraternity brothers and former roommate, Pete Lannon's a big Philadelphia Eagles fan. He actually helped me make this pick. He also says Fletcher Cox. He was saying that, they have a good defensive ends. They have a solid offensive line. and they just picked up another linebacker,
D'Amico
Ryan. Apparently, he quote unquote he's like a 94 on Madden.
He's a
so
beast.
Defensive tackle makes sense for them. That was my friend Pete's word. He said, he's like a 94 on Madden. So they got their linebacking situation kind of fixed. They play that spread 9 defense. They need a defensive tackle. It's a perfect fit, and yeah.
Jesse?
Quentin Couples, I think, is the pick here. I don't know. It's tough though. He's got whatever that story was a while ago, where he was basically came out and just said, "Yeah, I didn't really try in my senior year at North Carolina."
That's nice.
That's a huge red flag. But again, this is the NFL, where okay, you don't give an effort on every down, but if you do on the downs you do give effort, you're an all-star. We're going to give you a shot, and that's really kind of the archetype that Quentin Couples is appearing to fit into.
For the Eagles, this is the pick that is my shock pick. Every year in the NFL draft, you have that one player who goes higher than he should, higher than he's expected to.
Raiders aren't picking yet.
And I think
the Raiders don't pick for another 3 years though.
6 years.
But this is my shock pick of the draft. They take Shea McClellan, outside linebacker from Boise State.
What?
Yeah.
Isn't he like a 3rd round pick?
No, he's actually is projected to go up there.
Okay.
He's overall.
Oh, okay. Kuiper was talking about him.
Yeah.
Yeah. At the end for the Patriots. I know who you're talking about now.
Yeah. He's the one that's going higher than he actually should.
Oh, boy. Yeah.
Moving on. Number 16, the New York Jets.
Courtney Upshaw. It's a type of linebacker that Rex Ryan loves. Put them on the outside, and even though they should get defensive line help or a wide receiver, they're going to draft Courtney Upshaw because Rex Ryan will absolutely fall in love with this guy.
I have the same thing. Courtney Upshaw, outside linebacker. It makes sense for the Jets, too, if they want to continue their identity of being that physical, hard-nosed playing defense team. So, I mean, besides their need, it sort of fits their fan base and whatever Rex Ryan's trying to propagate is their image.
Jesse?
I'll go with the same idea for a defensive end outside linebacker type, but I'm going with Chandler Jones just on the fact that he's rising up just because everyone sees him as an elite pass rusher. So while he may not be as good of a core defensive end, for the other things, pass rushing will get you onto the field in some situations, which I think offers more value for the Jets here.
I've got the Jets. This is where I had Michael Floyd going. I think that with his little bit of trouble that he has had at Notre Dame, that does kind of hurt his stock a little bit. He falls right down directly in the middle of the first round and gives Sanchez another fairly decent target to throw the ball to.
Wait, you mean Tebow, right?
Whichever one's the one that's going to be throwing the ball this year.
Yeah.
Don't really care.
Let's get real. It's not going to be Tebow.
It's going to be Tebow.
Not a fan of the Jets. Next pick, number 17, the Cincinnati Bengals in that Carson Palmer trade with the Oakland Raiders at number 17.
Yes.
Who do the Bengals take?
The Raiders, as a side, only have one pick in this year's draft, and that's in the 3rd round. And maybe a little later. So I don't think they pick, like I said, I don't think they pick, literally they don't have the 1st round pick for 3 years. But they picked David DeCastro, the guard. As Jesse said, he's been shooting up the board, going everywhere. Solid guard, great guy. Come and protect right away. And you need Andy Dalton healthy to make that second leap, to make that year 2 leap, to stay up with the Ravens and the Steelers.
See, I had a little bit different of a philosophy coming into this, and now I'm sort of second-guessing myself. I have them picking Drake Kirkpatrick, the cornerback, because I feel like they need to improve their pass defense, especially against 2 pretty prolific passing teams when they play the Steelers and the Ravens. But at the same time, it's like, is that your number one concern when you're playing the Steelers and the Ravens, who are that sort of hard-nosed, they'll pound you? Do you want to go with maybe linemen or something like that? But yeah, I guess it makes sense too. So
Kirkpatrick is one of those guys. Well, Marvin Lewis, I'll explain later, loves to draft cornerbacks in the 1st round.
Yeah.
That he does.
I mean, I don't know. The Steelers really haven't been a ground and pound team for a while.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Last big running back I can think of for the Steelers that was consistently running the ball down people's throats was Jerome Bettis. After that, it's kind of fallen off.
I don't know, man. Mendenhall's been right up there.
Yeah,
Mendenhall likes to dance around people.
Like I said, they've had a couple here and there, but just not the same type of, we're going to run. They love to throw the ball, and that's why I think cornerback is a better fit for Cincinnati. Stephon Gilmore is the pick. They have the Bengals have the offense to hang around with other teams in the AFC North. They need the defense because right now that's really what's holding the Bengals back, and I think we saw that, in their in and out playoff appearance.
Yeah, I agree with Steve. I think that they take Drake Kirkpatrick. This is where his time has come. He's in the mid-20s on the big board of Mel Kiper, and corners tend to go a little bit higher normally than what their rating is, and this is where I think that Kirkpatrick comes off the board. Number 18, the San Diego Chargers.
This one was based on a pick solely on need. I really was having a hard time trying to figure something out for the Chargers. I didn't like some of the picks. I chose Peter Cons, the center. San Diego needs a center. It's one of their needs. They could put him in at the left side, a guard if they need to. Olin Cruz, I believe, is the center right now for them. He's getting up there in age, so Cons is the best center in the draft, and will fill in very nicely.
I've got him taking Andre Branch, defensive end. They need better pass rushing. I don't really think any team ever, if they get a good pass, is ever going to be upset if you pick a D end. Besides that, don't know a whole lot to say about it.
Jesse?
Yeah, Courtney Upshaw, defensive end from Alabama, I think is the idea here. Again, at this point it was just a value pick. He's one of the best available. Chargers need a rush D end, so why not?
I went defense as well with the Chargers, but I went a different direction. I went safety, Harrison Smith out of Notre Dame. They need some help in that defensive backfield, as they do have Antoine Cason, who's a great corner from Arizona that they drafted a number of years ago in the first round, but they really need safety help. They haven't had a good safety for a while, and to go along with Eric Weddle, I think Harrison Smith would be a pretty good pick for them. Number 19, the Chicago Bears.
Well, this one was another tough pick for me. I was trying to find an offensive guard that I thought would fit right there. I was going to go with the Castro, but he was already taken. So I went with Whitney Marcellus, the defensive end for the Bears. The Bears need someone else to rush opposite of Julius Peppers, and as Peppers has been the most consistent guy on the line, you bring in Whitney Marcellus. That's going to help. That's going to help out on the other side. And again, that might free up space for big number 55 right there, and 54 to come in and play on their respective as linebackers coming in.
I went with a similar philosophy on that, except I had the defensive tackle Dontari Poe for the Bears.
Mm-hmm. Jesse?
It's funny, the Bears in the offseason, it was looking pretty bad, and the wide receivers were pretty terrible. Johnny Knox is not going to play this year probably. And then suddenly out of nowhere, here comes Brandon Marshall, and now, even though Johnny Knox isn't coming back, I think they're going to draft Kendall Wright from Baylor. Makes them suddenly go from having no wide receivers to having a all-star and a guy who can be a very situationally good number 2 guy for Jay Cutler.
I think they go with Chandler Jones out, the defensive end from Syracuse here. I think, Jesse, you had him going a couple picks ago. I think that this is where he comes in and he's going to make a pass, be an impact player, really help with that pass rush, and like Vince said, allow Urlacher and Briggs to be able to do what they do and just go good opposite of Julius Peppers. Number 20, the Tennessee Titans.
Now, this is where I have Dre Kirkpatrick going. I'm kind of basing off what Kiefer and McShay are saying here. Kirkpatrick is a great corner. He's a big guy. He'll replace Cortland Finnegan and probably won't run his blow his tempers as much as Finnegan used to do. Although Finnegan is a very good cover corner, Kirkpatrick is just as good. Being tall, he can play with the big receivers as well.
Well, I don't really know what I put for this one. I picked Michael Brockers, but I don't know what position he plays or why I picked him. He's just on my sheet.
He's a defensive tackle.
Well, there you go. Do with that what you will.
Jesse.
Defensive heavy draft for Steve today.
Yeah, I'm with Vince going with Kirkpatrick here for the Titans. Easy pick.
I got Stephon Gilmore, the cornerback from South Carolina, going. I had Kirkpatrick going to the Bengals. And didn't you have Gilmore going to the Bengals, Jesse?
Yes.
Okay, so you and I just flip-flopped on those. I had Kirkpatrick at the Bengals, and nonetheless, we agree. They both need corners.
Mm-hmm.
Moving on, the second pick for the Cincinnati Bengals in the first round.
Now, I believe this is going to be a surprise pick. Janoris Jenkins of North Alabama has that first-round talent, but has a lot of baggage. But as we all know, Cincinnati loves to bring in reclamation projects and make things better. They could also this adds depth at cornerback. They added a bunch of cornerbacks this offseason. But as mentioned before, Marvin Lewis loves to take corners in the first round. See Jonathan Joseph and Leon Hall.
Well, I already picked my cornerback for the Bengals. I think they're going to go on the other side and pick a wide receiver, try and get their passing game fired up a little bit. So I have them taking Stephen Hill.
Wow.
That is a little bit of a surprise.
You're welcome.
Jesse?
I got Cordy Glenn here for the Bengals. Again, great offensive lineman. The Bengals are just getting value at this point out of multiple draft picks.
I agree with you, Jesse. I got him taking Cordy Glenn, too. Great guard out of Georgia. Very, very versatile, too. He can go to tackle. Might be able to play a little bit of center, too, although we saw Mike Pouncey have a little bit of problem making the conversion to center. But nonetheless, very successful as well. So Cordy Glenn it is for me for the Bengals. The second pick in the first round for the Cleveland Browns. We all remember that draft day trade where they got a number of good picks from the Falcons in last year's draft the Falcons jumped up to draft Julio Jones. Who do the Browns take?
Now, again, this might be that I can see them coming in and pick something. I could see them trading out as well and getting some extra multiple picks, but I have them taking Kendall Wright of Baylor here. Baylor, he's a speedy guy, good hands. He can run deep. He can run slots. He can go in different directions. That takes some pressure off the other wide receivers if he can go different ways. And now that we've got a line to protect Colt McCoy a little bit and a receiver to add some separation, the offense looks like it's starting to put itself together a little bit.
So just adding to my philosophy or my prediction before, I figured they're going to make a bad pick and pick Trent Richardson. And just to clarify why I think that's such a terrible pick earlier, running backs do not last that long. He's going to have like 3 good years. You just do not get good value. You need a good running back to have a great running game.
See, the thing is they consider him.
I know, whatever.
Yeah, okay, all right.
Let me just continue, all right?
He's just being spiteful because he hates the Browns.
No, I'm not being spiteful. They're a terrible organization, and they're going to make bad picks. Anyway, you objectively can't argue that they're a terribly run organization.
No,
all right, I'm just saying.
Their last 2 drafts have been solid, though.
Before Hackett and Holmgren came in, yes, they were terrible at drafting.
Yeah.
Anyway, I do think they'll make a fairly sensible pick, and it'll be consistent with their first pick in that they're going to pick Mike Adams, offensive tackle. Help open up that run game a little bit since they're picking a running back.
I have to agree.
So
I think it's a terrible pick. Mike Adams is not a great offensive lineman, but his stock is really high in Cleveland. Holmgren loves Mike Adams. And I can tell you, after watching the last 3 years of Mike Adams and Sugarts get destroyed by teams that aren't nearly as good as what they'll see in the NFL, I don't get it. Maybe it's just the coaching at Ohio State, but I think they take Mike Adams. I really just don't like Mike Adams.
Well, I was going to say, I think that it's probably going to please a lot of fans, too. I mean, there's a huge crossover between Browns fans and Ohio State fans. So,
very true.
Yeah. Vince knows all about my despitefulness for Mike Adams being drafted in the first round.
Apparently testing positive for marijuana as well, according to a message I got from Billy earlier.
I sent that same one to Jesse, too. And his response was a lot funnier than what yours was. I will show you that later, Vince.
Okay.
But nonetheless, I think the Browns do go offensive tackle here, but they go Jonathan Martin. I have him falling all the way down here to the Browns. And, him and DeCastro were a big reason why Andrew Luck and that offense out at Stanford was so successful, and he would be good to go opposite of Joe Thomas. So you got Joe Thomas, Mack, and Martin. That's a pretty good offensive line right there. You just need to work on those guards. Moving on, the Detroit Lions, number 23.
I have them taking Stephon Gilmore right here, the cornerback. Detroit needs a corner, and their defense fell apart. When you have Eric Wright leave your team, and he was your supposedly number 2, you got a problem. So I say Detroit takes Gilmore here.
Yeah, I have Detroit picking what Billy just said, Jonathan Martin. Pretty solid offensive lineman. I think that's going to help get them moving a little bit more on the offensive side of the ball. And Detroit probably going to be pretty formidable this year.
Jesse?
Yeah, the thing that Detroit I think needs watching them for a while now is the secondary player. I think Mark Barron fits in pretty good here because their secondary's really not able to keep up with many people. Even the Vikings last year had success, going against them in the secondary. And literally the only thing we have is Percy Hart to throw against. And so I think this helps them out.
The Detroit Lions here, I have them taking David DeCastro, the guard from Stanford. As I was filling this out earlier, just basically based on team needs. Didn't realize I'd let him fall this far. He'll probably end up going higher than what I have him going. But I think that if he's there, the Detroit Lions take him. Put him in there with a pretty decent offensive line from last year. Moving on, the number 24, the Pittsburgh, we lose in the first play in overtime, Pitt Steelers.
I have them taking Donta Hightower. He's the best inside linebacker available at this point, and he can plug in and play immediately. We'll figure out the system very quickly. But, of course, this means they won't draft him. They'll draft somebody else because nobody ever knows who the Steelers are going to draft.
Billy, I'll accept that insult, by the way. That was completely legitimate. Lost in the first round in overtime. I'm still hurt a little bit, especially because of his Tebow.
The explanation for the new overtime rules took longer than the overtime.
It did indeed. It did. That was sad. So yeah, I'll give you that one, Billy. You get that's a free shot. I fully accept that one. So my pick is definitely some wishful thinking, being a Steelers fan, and just the disgust I've seen in the Steelers secondary, especially against the Broncos, or the Denver T-Bows, as they were, I believe. So I have them picking Stephon Gilmore. The only problem is, or Stephen Gilmore, whatever his name is, Gilmore. The only problem with that is he's probably going to go a lot earlier than this. The Bengals could pick him in one of their 2 picks. I mean, we could see him going a lot earlier, but if things hold out and the Steelers end up having the opportunity, I really hope that they pick him, because they just need something better or somebody besides like Taylor to play some covered corner defense.
The Steelers are. I mentioned it earlier. They're teams that no matter what their needs are, if there's a player that is drastically better than the field, they take that player. The Steelers are one of those teams. Donta Hightower is that player, and this actually worked out for them, seeing as James Ferrier is out of town. So we just get a new guy, plug him right back in place, and while he may not be initially as good as Ferrier, I think he can easily grow into yet another great Pittsburgh linebacker that they'll keep around for 6-7 years and then cut loose before anyone else has realized that their value has passed them by.
Which is
someone else signs into a big contract for them to be terrible.
Which is unfortunate as a Browns fan.
I think here they go defensive lineman. I think they go defensive tackle with Dontari Poe from Memphis. He fits the Steelers organization quite well. Big 346-pounder that can actually move. Seeing him run his 40 at the combine, it's like, didn't know big men like that could move that fast, but nonetheless.
And I have one more comment on this pick too. All right, Gilmore is not only probably not going to get picked by the Steelers, he's probably not even their best choice. But I just can't stand they're not having another good cornerback.
You mean Ike Taylor is not the best cornerback alive?
No, Ike Taylor's a solid cornerback.
But you kidding me? They're shutting down everything in Pittsburgh.
But I can't. Even if a cornerback is not necessarily the most efficient or most value pick, I really want them to pick a cornerback because I just can't. I'm so frustrated with it.
You know what? We have 20 minutes left. We're going to get through this a lot faster than I thought we would with Ryan not being here. So I just want to say something. I just want to say something real quick. Steve and I always go back and forth. I give him crap about the Steelers. He gives me crap about the Browns. But I will say though, the Steelers were at a big disadvantage not having Ryan Clark in that game against the Broncos.
It didn't help
because of his condition. So that's one reason why they got beat so bad on the passes.
Well, they were just beat up too. I mean, they had a lot of players who weren't playing. So.
Hey, Cleveland Browns helped out with that one.
Yeah, they did.
But there's so many jokes made about Tebow ruining overtime, and everyone's still confused because they still won on one thing.
And then it was funny because Vince and I's roommate Nick, he says to me, "It's like you must really hate this game right now because I hate the Steelers. Not a fan at all of Tim Tebow." So he's just like, "So why are you even watching?" It's like, it's football. It's on. It's football. I watch it.
It's life.
But nonetheless, that's my little tangent for the night. Let's move on. Number 25. Those very same Denver Broncos that knocked out the Steelers.
The Peyton Manning Broncos. While a lot of people now, since they got Manning, are assuming they're going to draft a running back, they're going to draft a wide receiver, somebody to help complement them. I'm going to go with what both McShay and Kuiper are saying. Michael Brockers, defensive tackle from LSU. That helps out their defensive rookie of the year, Von Miller, in the middle, clogging up some space. Miller is a very good player, and you want to keep that defense as good as it was last year. You want to keep that going. So I have them taking Michael Brockers.
When Von Miller was drafted, did anyone else think that Von Miller was his entire last name and not his first and last name?
No.
Yeah.
Because I always thought it'd be like, Joe Von Miller or something Miller. Like Von Miller just sounds like a strange combination.
I feel like that with Von Miller, I feel like he's some sort of baron or something that's rich and far off in the land.
Well, I mean, look at the glasses he wears. He is a very classy man.
Oh, yeah.
So I went with a different philosophy for the Broncos, which is a little weird since I have had such a defense-heavy draft lineup. I do not know how to say this person's first name. His last name is Sanders, offensive tackle. It's like Zebra.
Let me see it.
Zabibi.
I think it's Zabibi.
Where are you even at?
At the top of my sheet. I don't know.
Zabede.
He was the highest ranked offensive tackle that I had left, and the reason I picked him is because I think you have to protect Peyton Manning. Denver's invested so much in Peyton Manning, and he still has that neck thing going on. There's a lot of questions about how's he going to be able to take hits? So I think that at all costs, you got to try and protect Peyton. And I think that starts with drafting offensive
Where's Sanders even from?
No idea.
Okay.
He might not be a real player. I don't know.
It's the guy Steve made up in his mind.
I literally looked up and I was like, who can the Broncos pick to help protect Peyton Manning? And I looked up.
Chase Budinger is the pick.
What? No Arthur C. Clarke?
No, and Arthur C. Clarke.
Exactly.
The compliment to help complement Von Miller, we have Arthur C. Clarke in playing.
But seriously, I mean, regardless how the rest of the team goes, if they don't protect Peyton Manning this year, they're done. I mean, I don't know what they're going to do about picking a quarterback if that happens. So I think they pick.
But no, Steve, tackle. I do know that is a player. I have seen that name. I just can't remember what he's from.
I feel like he's from a defensive tackle somewhere from Alabama or some weird like SC.
It's not
SEC.
Alabama. I do know that.
Rainbow, Alabama.
Okay, there, Forrest. What's your pick?
I think they go with the guard here. I think part of the deal for Peyton Manning coming into town is that he gets to have a say in what they do, basically, for as long as he is there. And so while the best pick for them would be Brockers, I think you're going to see them take someone like Peter Kahn, who again, as a lineman, it will help them out just because that would be best for Peyton Manning, probably what Peyton Manning wants.
I have him taking Michael Brockers. I agree with Vince. Put Michael Brockers up there in front of Von Miller. You got Doomerville on the outside.
Yeah.
It just could end up being a very ridiculous
nasty
draft.
defense right there.
It very well could be a great defense. Moving on, number 26, the first-time playoff appearance team, the Houston Texans.
Now, this is where you would think a lot of people projecting Wright to fall to the Texans and have them take it be a great comp with Andre Johnson. I have them taking Jonathan Martin here. I feel that the next few receivers that are coming up in this draft are still a little too raw and don't have all the skills necessary. So I went with an offensive tackle that'll help out the running game and will help protect Matt Schaub, who got hurt last year. And then we had T.J. Yates with the best quarterback name in the world coming in and playing. But Jonathan Martin's a pick here.
Topped only by Y.A. Tittle.
Yeah, Y.A. Tittle's a great
Exactly.
name.
I'm pretty sure there's some other old-timey names.
There's a wide receiver called like T.Y. Hilton, and I keep thinking he's a quarterback. I'm like, that's a great quarterback name, the wide receiver. I'm like, that's not as good of a wide
It's a
receiver.
great
name.
50s, 60s quarterback name.
Yes.
Indeed.
Anyway,
Yeah.
I do have what you thought will happen. I have Kendall Wright going to the Texans. Not a whole lot left to say about that, but yeah, I think he's going to fall there. I think there are some better receivers, but they'll be gone already, so I think that'll be their choice.
Jesse?
Stephen Hill, wide receiver from Georgia Tech. Again, not a whole lot for the Texans to go with here because now the draft is really starting to thin out.
Yeah.
I think they go wide receiver as well. I agree with Steve, though. I think they can't take Kendall Wright. I would have liked to have seen him with the Browns at the number 22 pick, but after the horrific 40 time he ran.
But again, he ran that when he improved it much more when he went back to the thing. It's the same thing of what Cecil did. Cecil had a bad 40 time at the combine, came back, ran a spectacular 40 time here at Mount. So I throw those combine 40s out the window, and I look at game tape and how quick he is.
All of them? You just throw them out the window?
But nonetheless, though.
Never mind.
Yes, usually as a rule, I'll go over tape if something usually bad that someone's supposed to be good at happens. I'll look at tape more than I'll look at what the combine time
What
is.
if it's
Again, the two most incredibly overrated parts of any combine: Wonderlic test, 40 times.
Yeah, they are.
You can fail the Wonderlic test horrifically and be a great player. You can do great on it and be a horrible player. I mean, I think Hines Ward runs like a 5.6, and the guy's a Hall of Famer. You know what I mean? Like it's how you play the game. If you can't run really fast in a straight line for 40 yards, that's not football.
Yeah.
No, it's not. I agree with you, Jesse. I don't pay attention to the 40 times at the combine either. I pay attention to the position drills. But moving on, number 27, the New England Patriots in a draft day trade from last season where they traded with the New Orleans Saints. The Saints used that pick. It was either to get Ingram or Cam Jordan. One of those two first-round picks last year. Nonetheless, who did the Patriots pick?
Actually, the Patriots trade out. The Patriots love trading. I would not be surprised if they don't make any first-round selections this year. But I have the Jaguars. Another panic trade a little bit, and this is where you make a reach. A.J. Jenkins, the wide receiver, comes in. He was on Mel Kiper. He's the projected second-round pick for the Jaguars. They must feel that they need to get him. And it's one of those questions, every once in a while, like you mentioned earlier, you have one of those picks where you're like, wait a second, what? And I think this is one of those wait a second what picks that you get right here, A.J. Jenkins.
Before Steve makes his pick, the last 2 years, the wait a second, why is the team taking that pick? 2 years ago, when it was draft night, Jesse and I were here. Doug called in, and he tells us the Jaguars took Tyson Alualu at number 10. And then last year, ended up being a great pick for him. The 49ers taking Alden Smith in the top 10. Mm-hmm. That was the shocker for me last year, but it turned out real great for him.
Can I just point out real quick how convoluted Vince's scenario is? He's saying that he's saying that not only will a team hypothetically trade with another team, but not only will they do that, but they will pick a very unexpected pick. Like, it just sounds...
Well, it's the same thing. Well, it's like when Minnesota traded up and picked Christian Ponder.
Yeah.
Again, that
they
everyone
didn't
was
trade
like,
up to pick Christian Ponder.
They picked Christian Ponder. Well, then the Jaguars traded up to pick Gabbert when they could have sat back because everyone was worried.
No, they stayed right where they were.
See, I thought they traded back.
Nope.
Generally, what we do in mock drafts is pick who we assume our teams are likely to pick, and I think Vince defied all odds saying that they're going to trade up and then pick somebody nobody expects.
No.
Well,
I did say...
Fair,
Okay.
To be fair, this very conversation is exactly why I refuse on principle to do mock picks for the New England Patriots.
Yeah, because they'll trade.
I couldn't tell you. I could tell you what they need. I can tell you what would be good, but they will probably not do that, and they will probably be 10 times more correct than I am because they're geniuses.
But
if you had to pin me to a wall and have me pick someone, Shea McClellan is the guy because he doesn't really have a position. He's just a great defensive player, and so why not? They can have him play 6 different positions.
In Vince's defense, Steve, I did say if you feel a team's going to make a trade, say who they're going to trade with and who that team's going to
No, I think it was good. I appreciate the value that Vince's hypotheticals added to the show. I just find it funny that not only would he have a team trade, but then he would say they're going to pick something very unexpected. It makes sense.
Okay.
All right. Let's finish our picks.
We got like 10 minutes. Come on, Billy. Jeez, we're on 27 for Pete's sakes.
So I got something else I wanted to add to the end of the show. So hurry up.
All right. Chandler Jones, defensive end. I think that the Patriots could have definitely improved from some better pass rushing during the Super Bowl.
I agree they go defensive end, but / outside linebacker here. I think that this is where Courtney Upshaw goes from Alabama. Big 270-pound boy. He's not your typical outside linebacker, but throw him in a 3-4 scheme with Bill Belichick, he'll be a playmaker.
I mean, if I wouldn't have had him going 10 picks ago, I probably would have said the same thing.
Well, I didn't have him going 10 picks ago, so there you go. Next pick, number 28. The best record in the NFL last year, the Green Bay Packers.
Packers, I have them taking Andre Branch, defensive end. They need, again, this is the team that needs pass rush. They need to get sacks on the quarterback. Branch will provide that. The other one, they're looking at linebackers, but I went with the defensive end for this one.
Interesting. So on my sheet, I have 27 New England Patriots, then I have a big blank white space, and then I have 29 Baltimore Ravens.
So apparently the Packers have been blown off the map because you're mad that they lost.
Apparently the Packers dissolve as a team and no longer exist. That's my prediction.
Okay, Jesse.
You miss my antics, Jesse.
All the time. For the Packers, I think Whitney Marsalis is a good guy to take on the defensive side of the ball. Again, they need a little bit more to shore up on the defense because, at this point, you don't need anything for the offense. Their offense is fine.
And I agree with Vince. They go defensive end, but I have them taking Nick Perry from USC. I think that
was the other one.
He's one of those guys that he's going to fall right down there toward the end of the first round unless it's one of those, oh, no, they picked that guy pick. But nonetheless, so they go defensive end, put him in front of Matthews. Whew, doggy. Moving on, number 29, the AFC North champions, Baltimore Ravens.
Ravens do not like this position. They're always looking to trade. They're always looking to acquire more picks. They trade out. The Rams overly move up a few spots to pick up Jarrell Worthy, the defensive tackle, and they need. Mentioned before, Jesse had talked about drafting a defensive guy. This is their defensive tackle that they pick up a high second, low first round. Really, I don't feel is much of a difference. So it's not that big of a reach. They just jump up a few spots.
The way my draft worked out, I know you guys pretty much all had him going a lot sooner. I have the Ravens picking Dante Hightower. Obviously, Ray Lewis is getting pretty old, and they are a very defensive-minded team, so I think he'd fit right in there in the linebacking position. But the way realistically it works out, I think it'll be tough for him to fall that far.
Jesse?
Alshon Jeffrey, I think, is the pick the Ravens are going to make. It's kind of an odd thing for the Ravens to do, to be taking offensive power in the first round, but again, they're looking for something to expand the offense because right now that's what they need. Their offense has games where it stands out, but again, the Ravens' offense is going to have to catch up if it's going to try to be if it wants to win the AFC like they have their goal of every year. They need offense to do that.
I think they go offensive line here. This is where I think that the center from Wisconsin, Peter Kans, goes. I was looking at it, and I was actually pretty proud of this pick because I did this. Really didn't look at Mel Kiper's mock drafts. Didn't really look at McShay's. This is where Mel Kiper has Peter Kans going too. And I was like, wow, me and Mel Kiper on the same page. You don't see that very often. But nonetheless, I think that the big center from Wisconsin comes in here. He can also play guard, so he might be able to move him back and forth there for guard because guard was a big need for the Ravens in this offseason. Number 30, the San Francisco 49ers after a great season this past year.
The Niners, even though they've added wide receiver, they still add more. I say they take Stephen Hill here. He's raw, but he's big and fast.
The 49ers, the bane of the Steelers last year. If they would have beat the 49ers and got that bye, they would have been able to rest, would have gone on. It upsets me. But either way,
excuses.
I have been picking.
I still maintain that there are reports of Joe Flacco fleeing from the scene with cable cutters when the power went out at the stadium in San Francisco.
Yeah, I've got Devin Still, defensive tackle, just to help bolster this already pretty nasty defense. So, yeah, look out for the 49ers next year. I think that's pretty much consensus among us.
Mm-hmm.
Kobe Fleener, tight end from Stanford.
Early.
I think, honestly, you're looking at, again, obviously he's a Stanford player, but the one thing about Harbaugh that's a lot like the Patriots, he loves tight ends. if he could play with 8 tight ends, he would play with 8 tight ends and throw them all the ball. So, adding another big receiving threat to the ones they already have, plus Vernon Davis, I think opens up San Francisco's offense even more.
Yeah, Kobe Fleener would be a good pick for them just because, he also knows Jim Harbaugh's system. But I think they go defense once again. I think they go Andre Branch and from Clemson. You stick him there with Patrick Willis, Alden Smith. You just get all these great defensive players there. They'll be back up there once again. Moving on, number 31, the Super Bowl runner-up, New England Patriots with their second pick in the first round.
Surprisingly, I feel like they actually stay in this position after not being able to trade out with anybody again. But I say they take Derek Wolfe, a defensive end. Vince Wilfork was really the only person who really came on at the end of that season, and they need somebody else to help him out. He's getting up there in age, so Derek Wolfe, the choice.
I have Peter Kahns, the center/guard. It is hard to pick. It's hard to see with the Patriots, kind of like Jesse said earlier, what they're going to go with. But I think that they're going to try and bolster that offensive line a little bit. I mean, you really can't go wrong picking offensive line in the first round.
Refuse to do it. Can't do it. I have no idea. Couldn't tell you who they're going to pick.
It's going to be a trade out, and they're going to draft. They're going to draft the commissioner of the NFL to play find the other teams and.
I think that they go with the cornerback from North Alabama. I think this is where Janoris Jenkins goes. Help out with that pass defense just a little bit. And Jenkins, good player, terrific at Florida, transferred out, and I think he falls to the end of the first round. Final pick of the first round, Super Bowl champions, New York Giants.
The Giants could go in a variety of ways. They could go running back, defense. They could pick another wide receiver. I say they go with Kobe Fleener right here. He's a luxury pick. Ballard did really well for them, but you got a kid who can go and split out, run deep, do a bunch of stuff. Fleener, the tight end, is the choice for me for the Giants.
I've got another pick where I wrote down his name, not his position or where he played in college, so I don't really know. I don't even know who this guy is, but Shane McClellan.
Yeah, he was my pick.
Oh,
linebacker, Boise State.
Linebacker, sure. Linebacker, Boise State, help improve that defense. Always got to improve defense.
All right, Jesse, who you got the Giants taking?
Got the Giants taking Jonathan Martin, just adding some protection on the right side for Eli Manning.
I agree they go offensive line, but I think they take Kevin Zeitler, the guard from Wisconsin. One of the more underrated guards with DeCastro and Glenn coming out of this year's draft. And go along with Peter Kahns. Wisconsin, they always have a good offensive line. You look at some of the players they've put out over the years, very good offensive line team up there.
Like Boston College and linebackers. No matter how bad they are, they're going to produce.
They're going to produce something good.
That position, yeah.
While we still have a few minutes here, we got about 5 minutes left. Real quick, who is a player that we do not have going in the first round that could possibly sneak up in the first round?
I would say Doug Martin, the running back.
From Boise?
From Boise. He's one of the top second-round running backs coming up. You could project him to go into one of those top guys over to the Patriots or someone like that. Jump up, have them take him in the bottom of the first round.
Pass.
All right, Jesse?
J.D. Sugars, just to make me mad.
The guy I have that I think they could end up going in the first round, David Wilson, running back from Virginia Tech.
He's the other one.
I like Lamar Miller from Miami better than David Wilson, but a lot of people think the Giants could end up liking him enough to take him in the first round to help replace Brandon Jacobs. And now someone...
Makes sense. The one thing I wanted to hijack the show for before we got off here was that, I'm sure you guys saw the story today. Well, maybe not Steve, but I'm sure you guys saw the story today about Roger Goodell basically coming out and threatening the city of Minnesota and saying,
I was going to ask you about that.
Listen, I know you guys don't believe Ziggy Wolf when he says he's going to move the team, but he's already told me that he's going to move the team, so get it done or you're losing your team. It's sad to see one of the oldest franchises in the NFL not able to get this deal done.
We feel your pain as Browns fans.
I want to get on my soapbox here because this isn't even really me lobbying for some political view, but it's all politics. We have an owner who is willing to contribute the second highest amount an owner has ever contributed to build a stadium in NFL history. He's paying for half the project, $500 million. The other half is being picked up by one of the wood has been offered to be picked up by one of the Indian tribes of Minnesota. The only caveat being they asked the Wolf as part of the concourse that they build that they're able to build a casino next to the stadium. He's like, I don't care. Yeah, do it.
That's a great idea.
And of course, the state has said, well, we would have to approve, and we may not really like that idea. And, so again, it's the city of Minneapolis wanting their cut. The Vikings had a stadium deal, and it wasn't in Minneapolis, and the Minnesota State Legislature, which is dominated by the Minneapolis politicians, found a way to kill that as well. It's sad to see this play out when it could have been done months ago. Instead, we're still here talking about the Vikings moving probably L.A. or Toronto.
Yeah,
I agree with you,
LA,
Jesse. It is kind of sad to see this playing out the way it is when, like you said, he's going to contribute half of the stadium. But unfortunately, we are out of time here on Radio Zone Weekly. We thank you for joining us, and we want to thank again Jesse Meade for calling in and contributing to this special NFL mock draft preview, as the draft is going to be next week. And this is the last show of the year.
Yeah.
As tradition has it, we don't want to do a show during finals week. Vince and I are done now with Radio Zone Weekly.
Weird feeling.
So Steve and Ryan will be taking over next year. We hope that you will come back and listen to them. I know I will, and critique them on every little thing that they do.
Oh, I can't wait for that.
But nonetheless, we thank you for joining us, and keep listening to the radio voice of Mount Union, WRMU 91.1.